In this video, we're going to have a look at what is PAYG withholding or pay as you go and how do you calculate it. If you're earning salary and wages income, you don't wait until the end of the year to start paying your tax. If you did wait until the end of the year, some people would be receiving bills that they have to pay of $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 or more. So to avoid you having to pay a lump sum of tax at the end of the year, the ATO requires your employer, your boss, to withhold an amount each pay period, whether weekly, monthly or fortnightly, and that amount of money gets sent regularly to the ATO on your behalf. Then at the end of the year, all of that money that has been sent by your employer on your behalf, you can claim a credit for in your income tax return. So if you had tax payable of $10,000 and you had PAYG withholding sent to them during the year for $11,000, then you are going to have a refund payable from the tax office to you at the end of the year. If you haven't had enough paid for your PAYG withholding, your pay as you go withholding during the year, then you will have to make another payment to the Australian Taxation Office, the ATO, at the end of the year. So say if you had income tax payable at the end of the year of $10,000, but you only had $9,000 PAYG withholding paid on your behalf during the year, then at the end of the year, you're going to have to make a catch-up payment of $1,000. The purpose of PAYG withholding is that it should cover all of your tax payable on your salary and wage income. The ATO will specify how much, based on what you're getting paid, should be withheld for your pay as you go or PAYG withholding during the year. So let's have a look at an example of how we can calculate based on how much a person gets paid per week, how much PAYG tax should be taken out. So to do our calculations, we need to use the ATO Published Tables that outline these amounts. Now, different tables are published based on whether you get paid weekly, fortnightly or monthly. So when we are doing our calculations, we need to make sure we're using the correct table. So in our example, Steve got paid $950 per week, and we want to know how much PAYG withholding per week should be sent to the ATO. And for the second part, if Steve got paid the same every week, how much will he earn in a year and how much PAYG withholding would have been withheld during that year. So the first step in answering our question, our example, is we need to have a look at the ATO tables. And we know that Steve gets paid $950 per week. So we got to make sure we are looking at the ATO tables that relate to weekly wage payments. When we do that, or once we've found our table, we then need to find out how much someone getting paid $950 should be withheld. So the weekly PAYG withholding table, and we know that it's weekly because it says so up the top, looks like this. It's going to have columns across the page. The first section of the column is going to be your weekly earnings. So how much the person is getting paid. For our example, Steve, it's $950. The second column is going to be how much the employer should be withholding from that $950, presuming the person is only working one job. If the person is working two jobs, then they may not be claiming the tax-free threshold, which means they're going to be paying more tax. So if they're not claiming the tax-free threshold, then the employer needs to use the second column. All of our examples, we will assume that the person is using the tax-free threshold, and so we'll be using the middle column to work out how much they should get paid. So we need to find out for Steve how much on $950. So we look through the table till we find $950. And then once we've found $950, we need to have a look and see how much tax should be withheld each week from his pay period. And we do that by looking at the second column. So based on a $950 weekly payment, Steve's employer should be taking out $165 per week. So we can use that information to answer part A of our example. So part A, weekly PAYG withholding is equal to $165 based on a $950 payment. For this second part of the question is asking us if Steve gets paid the same amount each week, how much will he earn and how much tax will be withheld. So if we're having a look at part B, then if someone gets paid weekly, they're going to get paid 52 times in the year. So the total wage is going to equal $950 times by 52. So $950 per week times by 52 weeks in the year. So over the year, Steve is going to earn $49,400. Now from that money though, he's going to have his PAYG withholding. So his total PAYG withholding for the year, so total PAYG, if he gets paid $950 each week, his employer should then be taking out $165 per week. So 165 times by 52. So based on the $165 per week, all up in the year, Steve is going to have $8,580 PAYG withholding. So when Steve comes to do his tax return at the end of the year, if his tax payable on his $49,400 is less than $8,580, then he will receive a refund from the ATO, the Australian Taxation Office. If his tax payable on his income is more than $8,580, then Steve will have to make a payment to the ATO to catch up on his tax payable.